guys, it doesn't matter, and
I love the dream.
And this is a special edition episode of our podcast, Confessions of a Stan Cub Edition. That is right, episode special edition number 2 for Jesy, Cub Edition, whatever, guys. It's the second Cub Edition version of the podcast, because you know how we said in the first one that Jessy's always ahead of us, and we waited that time because last time we were like, oh, she's always ahead of us, let's give it a few days, we'll wait a week, and then she would have ended up being ahead of us because she followed Nicki Minaj. Well, they were like, oh, we nailed this, and then literally like right after we posted this, she dropped an interview with The Guardian.
Yep, pretty much. To sum it up.
So I think the situation is that we're never going to be caught up with Jesy.
Yeah, 100%.
But maybe this is good. Maybe, right? Us recording this means she's going to do the next thing soon. Like, us doing this is going to get us an announcement of the single, Watch.
I hope so.
I mean, same.
Something.
Anyway, guys, that's what happened again. She got ahead of us, and I asked you guys if you'd be interested in seeing us talk about what she said in this interview, because it is only the second time she's ever spoken about it, and she reveals a lot more in this than she did last time, and a lot of you were like, yes, please talk about it. So that's what we're doing. All right, so we were thinking that the way we would do this is just kind of like read down the article with you guys and with each other, and then we'll stop and we'll chat as we reach things that we think are chat worthy. That means it is unfortunately going to be a bit of us like reading the article to you guys, so apologies about that. I don't think either of us think we have the best reading voice.
Oh, I definitely don't.
But that's the nature of these types of things. So we're just gonna have to give it our best shot. So what it is, the article, it's not like a straight out interview, it's like a profile interview. So the author, observed her, interviewed her, asked her questions, and then he's writing it, like inserting his own thoughts, his own opinions, his own impressions. And like, we don't actually get to, it's not like in the Cosmo article where we got like a transcript of the back and forth. It's like we get her select direct quotes. Select meaning like he's cherry picking them, but that he probably recorded her and just transcribed it and just picked the ones that he wants to talk about. But he's not giving us his quotes, like he's not giving us his side of the conversation. He's like giving us the general way of the conversation through his writing. I don't know if what I just said made sense, but I think you'll get it as I read it.
Yeah, like we don't have necessarily all the context too.
Yeah, and that's some of the comments that at least I'll be making later on.
Yeah.
So just so that that's clear, I guess. Jesy Nelson is having her photo taken for the first time in her career. It's all about her. She's no longer one quarter of the hugely successful girl group Little Mix. Nelson's about to release her first solo single, and she says she is happier than she has been in years, but you wouldn't know it. She looks painfully self-conscious, unsmiling, and anxious. Photos done, she disappears to change clothes. When she returns, she's unrecognizable, dressed in a black t-shirt, leggings, and platform trainers. Nelson is all smiles, warm and giggly and uninhibited. I tell her I've never seen such a contrast. She laughs. When I'm in front of a camera, I don't know what to do. The other 3 girls would be in the weirdest positions and look fabulous. If I did it, I'd look awful. Do we want to stop there and comment, or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so just like from a writing standpoint, I can already kind of tell that like he's not quote unquote on her side.
Yeah, it's very, very journalism, like standard writing. You know what I mean? These are like the stories I'd write in your book.
Yeah, like not in the sense that I think he's actually unbiased, which is what journalism is supposed to be. I don't get the feeling he's actually unbiased. I just get the feeling that he's not being particularly like overly friendly with her, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he was in person and he's just being more like taking that out, in the actual piece. But like just right off that, like I do not get the vibe that like he's like on her side type of a like paid and written for profile article, if that makes sense. And there are also like some profiles that the girls have done over the years too that are very similar to this, where it seems like the the authors or the interviewers that come in, I hesitate to call them journalists just because journalism integrity is so high, and I don't know that these people are necessarily meeting it. So I like hesitate to use it, but
Mhm.
it's closer to journalism than like some of the other things, you know?
Yeah.
I'm thinking of some of like the LM5 and Glory Days interviews where like they would talk about how like, oh, you know, the girls come in and like they look dead exhausted and they're like really tired and like, you know, like whatever of the Glory Days era, but then they'd also be really complimentary of them and like really supportive.
Mhm.
I don't get that vibe here.
No, yeah.
I get the vibe he's critically looking at it, which is usually what they do. I don't get the vibe he's like ultimately on her side. I don't know if that's because he's a guy. I don't think I've ever read a guy's profile of the girls, actually. I think it's always been women. Um,
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it. So maybe that's part of it. Like maybe the women are just like a little mixed fans and, you know, he's not and she hasn't really solo music yet. I don't know. Maybe it's a difference in how women band together in this industry. A whole bunch of different things it could be. But yeah, that right off the bat, like that's the vibe I got. Not that I think he's like doesn't like her or something, just that like it's not the same vibe that I've gotten in the past when Little Mix do these profiles.
Yeah.
As far as like what he actually says about Jesy. Yeah, this doesn't surprise me at all that she's still uncomfortable in front of a camera. I don't think this would surprise anyone.
I think we'd be more surprised if she was comfortable.
Yeah, that seems exactly as it should be. She's still, you know, healing. She's still learning, and she really will be the rest of her life. This is a trauma she's had for 10 years. It didn't just go away because she left. I think this is very much what I expected. What I think is interesting about it is the difference clearly isn't what you can see on the outside when she's in front of the camera, right? The difference is how she feels afterwards, right? So he says like she goes and she changes and she comes back to do the interview and she's got like, and you all know exactly what outfit she's wearing, right? It's probably like one of the huge t-shirts, like a Leah or something, with like the like whatever the fuck like normal logoed like leggings it is with like the flat, like we all know exactly what she's wearing, right?
Mhm.
um
Yeah.
because we've seen it all of the time everywhere. um and she's like warm and happy and giggly and we'll go his words, all smiles, warm, giggly, uninhibited. To me, what that says is that yeah, she's still not comfortable in front of a camera,
Mhm.
but it's not following her,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. So like when she was in Little Mix, the the uncomfortableness, the trauma, the like degrading of herself of what she looks like on camera followed her after the photo shoot.
Yeah. Yeah,
She
yeah.
changed out of her clothes, went out to go talk to him, and had a happy-go-lucky mood. Like mood wasn't even tarnished. And that's something actually similar to what was said in the Cosmo interview. I'm actually going to see if I can pull it up and quote it. Give me one second, guys. Because I think it's just a pattern of behavior. And since you know we're talking about it, let's talk about it. Okay, so the Cosmo person who profiled her said, it's a sunny day in early March when she arrives for a cover shoot in East London, all big hair and smiles. From the off, there's a remarkable difference in the singer to when we last shot her 13 months ago with her former bandmates. She's always been friendly and super polite, but at times last year she seemed a little distant. Today she's happy, confident, and excited to tell the Cosmopolitan team about her plans for the future. So she started off like feeling good on set, right? Started off, came in happy, excited to be there. And then it says, even at 5 p.m., when she sits down to be interviewed by one of her best friends, model Felicity Hayward, after 8 hours of being photographed, there's no knocking her mood. And she like sings songs as she like sits down and talks to Felicity, and they like, you know, laugh and joke and make small talk for a while. So that's like the same thing, right? So after 8 hours of being in front of a camera where she likely was uncomfortable and, you know, all the same things, she sits down after 8 hours and is like, yes, interview. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think she's
Yeah.
probably a little bit more excited for Cosmo because that was one of her friends, but I think that the same thing kind of applies, right? So she might be uncomfortable in front of the camera, but it's not following her afterwards. To me, that's a big difference. Like, that's a much more sustainable, I don't help.
It's a uh evolvement. That's not a word, but I feel like I need to use that word in some type of context.
It's growth. It's what it is that it's
Yes,
growth.
growth. Growth. That's the evolvement. I
That
was
sounds
gonna
like it has
say
something to do with
development.
Pokemon.
Yes. I've had evolve and or not evolve, I had evolution and like development in my head and I was like, evolvement. Yep. I
Uh,
don't know what's going on.
okay, we all do things that we don't like for our jobs. Or, I mean, I guess some of you are young, and might not like have jobs yet, but like we all do things that we don't like to do things that we love, right? Like no one loves everything about something they do, whether it's like a hobby or a commitment or a job or, whatever it is. So, does she hate being on camera? Yeah. Is that a problem if it doesn't follow her around after the shoot is over? No. And so if that is what's happening, which this is only 2 instances, we'll just have to see how it goes. She'll have to see how it goes. That still didn't make sense, and I retried. Um, but like, she's learning, we're learning. We also need to remember that, like, oh yeah, we should have started with a disclaimer. We are absolutely purely speculating on literally everything, and anything Jesy says at any given point in time about her mental health trumps everything we've ever speculated, just to be clear.
Yeah.
Um, like, if we speculate that something might be true and you're like, oh, that makes sense, and then Jesy contradicts us one day, she's right, we're
We're
wrong.
wrong.
Like, just to
uh,
be clear about that. But yeah, so I feel like if it's just going to be something she doesn't love about her job, but if it doesn't hurt her, then it's going to be okay. If that makes sense.
mhm. Yeah.
And she shows that she knows that she's uncomfortable in front of the camera. She wasn't like, "No, I felt super confident." But she was like, "Oh yeah, when I'm in front of a camera, I don't know what to do. Like, I feel awkward." She even says like, "I'd think I'd look awful in something," right? So she's acknowledging that like she still doesn't see herself positively when she looks back at a camera.
Mhm.
So this all seems fine to me. Like, he kind of paints it as like this must mean she's lying about her mental health. But I think that, I mean, honestly, like, not just based on this, but based on a few other things in the article, it sounds like he doesn't know much about anything about mental health.
Mhm.
But coming from a mental health standpoint, like, this is exactly what I expected.
Yeah, like coming from people who know her, not know her, but like are I guess more familiar with her than he
Who know
is.
who know more about her than he does. We don't know
Yeah,
her, but we
that.
know more
Yeah.
about her.
I wasn't sure
Like,
how to say that. I was like, we don't know her, but we know her?
yeah.
Question mark.
We know more about her history. We know more about like all the different things she
Yes.
said about her journey, about how she sees and how she's expressed her situation, and we know more than he does, but he got the impression. So like we kind of have to work out what we think through his impression of what he saw, and it's a little funky, but we're gonna do it together. And yeah, he seems very skeptical about the whole thing. I don't see anything weird about this at all.
Mm.
This is exactly what I would expect, and I think that this is, if anything, is a good start. She was never going to just suddenly love being in front of a camera. That I think that's like part of some of the maybe like misinformation or misunderstandings that come. They're like, oh well, she left, but like she's still gonna have to do these things. Yeah, she still doesn't like being in front of a camera, even though she's the only one in front of it. Um, that's not the issue, you know.
Mhm.
So I think that, I don't know. Hopefully that just made sense. Let's keep going because we literally got through 2 paragraphs.
Yeah.
Um, I'm gonna skip over the giant bolded quotes that skip ahead.
Yeah.
Because that just ruins the article. Okay, so It goes into some background stuff. It says, like, in 2019, Nelson made a powerful documentary about her life with the other three girls called Odd One Out. She talked about how she had always compared herself with the other members of Little Mix and found herself wanting. The origins of her low self esteem went back to the very formation of the band on the 2011 series. She auditioned successfully as a solo singer, but the judges decided she was better suited to being in a group. She was teamed up with other solo entries, obviously the girls, to form the group Rhythmics, which was later renamed. They went on to win that year. During the show, she was trolled horrifically on social media. And then we have a quote from Jesy. The first thing I read about myself was, "Is it me or does that girl look disabled?" The next one said, "She really looks like a rat." And the next one was, "God, her face looks deformed, she tells me." And then Jesse's quote continues, "When you've never had any issues with your face and then realize people are saying these things about you," she trails off, "you think if everybody is saying it, it must be true." The night the Little Mix won the X Factor, Nelson, then 20, wept and wished she was back with her mother. I'm going to do a quick pause. This was interesting to me. This is new information. Not the part about her crying and wishing she went home. The first thing she read about herself was, "Is it me or does that girl look disabled?" The next one she said, "Really looks like a rat." And the next one was, "God, her face looks deformed." Rat is interesting to me. That's not a common insult in the US. Maybe you guys in the UK can clarify for us. Maybe if it's really common over there. It's not common over here. And when I read that quote, the first time I read this article, my mind immediately flashed to the Bounce Back music video where she called herself a fat, ugly rat.
Yeah, I've noticed her saying that.
Yeah, like she refers to herself as a rat. And I thought maybe it was an English thing, but then to hear it was the second comment she ever read. And so it might still be an English thing, but I wonder if it's more than just an English thing.
Yeah, if it came from that.
Yeah, like if it started right here, this is its origins point. Anyway, that was like something that like dinged in my head as I was reading. All right, moving on. Over the years, the trolling intensified. In the documentary, Thirlwell says, "We just had to watch this amazing, funny person become like a broken doll. It was horrible. After Odd One Out aired, it seemed inevitable that Nelson's days in the band were numbered. She missed a few public appearances and was absent from some sections of the video for Sweet Melody, released in November. A month later, she announced she was leaving the group to look after her mental health. She had hit rock bottom. Today, she explains just how bad it was." Yeah, the guy takes like a cajillion paragraphs to get to what that sentence is alluding to, in case you're all wondering. Um,
For real.
so don't get hopeful. When we get to it, you'll know. Um,
Yeah, honestly.
okay, so I understand what he's doing with this, but this like he brings straight up now and he brings it up later in the article, and I actually really don't like this. Do I explain it now or do I wait to explain it? Okay, okay. So I'll talk about why I don't like what he did, but right here, why I didn't like him bringing up what Jade says in the documentary is because I don't like that fans do this. It really like pisses me off, and I don't think I've ever publicly spoken about it. I see a lot of, or like I did when the documentary first came out. They quote Jade. They're not quoting this part. They're quoting a different part of Jade that he doesn't quote. But it reminds me of this, and this is why I don't like it. Is that fans will go like, "Oh, well, if Jade cries, I know it was bad for Jesy because Jade never cries." That bothers me so much. Do you hear it? Do you, now that I've
Yeah,
rephrased
I
it, do you
know.
hear it?
Yeah. Like, they should just be crying for it to be bad.
Jesy spent an entire hour telling you how awful it was. Oh, guys, trigger warning. I'm just gonna do it right here because we haven't gotten anywhere yet. Um, yeah, so like literally anything in the documentary, guys, anything having to do with Jesse's mental health ever is may or may not come up in this article. She talks about it, like we're going to talk about it. It's going to be discussed. So eating
Mhm.
disorder, depression, suicide attempt, hospital visits, like anything in the documentary, anything and everything, it's all in here. um, so that's your trigger warning. That being said, Jesy spends an entire documentary like crying in front of you, like describing to you how bad it was, how broken she felt, how like alone and hated and isolated she felt, and she tells you that she tried to take her own life, but you know it was bad because Jade cried. Right? Like,
Yeah.
it just very much feels like Jesy explaining her trauma to you isn't enough. Like, you can't just believe her that it was bad. You need Jade to verify it for it to be valid. I hate
Yeah.
that. And it's because, like, that's something that happens in real life, guys. Like people do that where, you know, you being broken in front of them isn't enough. But if someone else is like, I've never seen them like this, then they're like, oh, maybe I should take this seriously. And it's like, no, you should take it seriously because someone is broken in front of you. You need to just believe people when they tell you they're not okay. And doing absolutely anything else is just so fucking messed up and wrong and disgusting and disrespectful. And that's very much what that reminded me of. And it irked me at the beginning. That's not necessarily what he's doing here. It still gave me that, you know what I mean? Okay, also, he said after Odd One Out had aired, it seemed inevitable that Nelson's days in the band were numbered. I don't recall feeling that way.
No.
I mean, Jesy went out of her way to sell it the opposite way.
Yeah.
And I mean, I knew that was a little too rosy colored. But yeah, there are a few things in here that tell me he didn't do the most thorough research, and we'll talk about those when we get to them. But this is one of them. This seems like it was just written for effect. Because, like, he acts like, you know, she missed public appearances and was absent from this part of the video released in November, but like Odd One Out aired in 2019. Like, and that she left in 2020. Like, that's like I don't know. That's just not quite like what led to Jesy leaving was not an entire year-long thing that started after the documentary came out. Like, her missing appearances and like not being in the video through all the scenes was like a very quick succession. So saying that like the days were numbered since it aired in 2019 is just a little like, you're being dramatic and inaccurate, but that's fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
We're gonna keep it real. Okay. Then we are moving on to our conversation starts with a guided tour of her many tattoos. I thought we were going to get to see some of the stories behind the ones we don't know, which didn't happen. Um, on her upper arm, it says music is the strongest form of magic. It really is. She says she's been obsessed with music and dancing since she was a little girl. Who were her heroes? Missy Elliott, she says instantly, she is the queen. I would come home from school and the first thing I do is put on MTV Bass and study Missy Elliott's videos. Did I skip a sentence? No, I didn't. Would study Missy Elliott's. Wow. Would study Missy Elliott's videos. She always had this little girl in her videos, and I so wanted to be her. I loved what we did in Little Mix, but it wasn't necessarily the music I would listen to myself. The music I love is old school R&B and hip hop. Her new music reflects her own tastes. That's what I grew up with and what I always wanted to make. So now I am making it. It feels amazing. All right, we'll stop there. I feel like we're gonna stop so fucking often. But like that's probably for the best because my reading voice is not that great, and clearly I'm very bad at it. Okay, so this was actually cute. Obviously, we know that she loves Missy Elliott. We know that Missy Elliott is who inspired her to be a performer because she's told us this before and just told us like this since literally 2011.
Yeah.
But this was cute. This is something I never knew, that she would come home from school and like put on MTV and like study the videos.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Like there's a little girl in her little like in her videos, and she always wanted to be that little girl. I think that's really cute. I loved what we did in Little Mix, but it wasn't music I would listen to myself. It's literally what she's been saying for a decade.
Yeah, we knew that.
Like, not only has she been repeating it ad nauseum since she left, but she said it in the group. So like people are going to be upset with it, just want to be upset with something. I'd like to hear a little bit more about like that's what I grew up with. I wonder if maybe she was just drawn to it as a kid, or if maybe like her mom or her siblings liked it or something, or I don't know. That's interesting. But yeah, I like that little story that we got. That like little Jesy went home and like, you know, turned on MTV.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like it really dates her. Really makes her feel like she was born in the 90s, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah, it does.
like It's very much like there's no way you mistake that for not being a millennial. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's not a lot of things that truly date Little Mix sometimes when they tell us about their past, but like that dated her so much when she said that. Okay. So, and then it explains like Jesy is the youngest of four children who grew up in Essex. Her parents separated when she was 5. The kids were brought up by her mom. She attended the Sylvia Young Theatre School where she specialized in dance. Astonishingly, she says she'd only once sung publicly before the X Factor when she was 8. We already know this. It was Annie, and her voice cracked every single note. And then she was traumatized and never did it again. um,
Yeah.
there's some stuff left out of there that I just know because we stan her. um,
Yeah, yeah.
like she went to a bunch of different schools. That's just the one that where she like stuck at, and then like we know what it was that she sung and why it was the only time. um,
Mhm.
all right, moving on. It continues and says, which takes us to the next tattoo, which is the Roman numeral date for their anniversary. And she goes, that's the date we first got put together on the X Factor, August 19th of 2011. I paraphrase, guys, because I'm American. um, and then she moves down her body, pointing with a finger. Then I've got one on my leg that says a tiger never loses sleep over the opinion of sheep. It basically means I couldn't give a shit about what people think about me anymore. If you don't like me, then ta-ta. I wonder if ta-ta is actually what she said.
I know, I wonder.
It's so weird because he's speaking as I, but like that means I don't know. I hope this isn't confusing for you guys. I'm trying to make it not. Um, the article continues and goes, I assume it must be a recent tattoo about self-empowerment, a two-fingered salute to the haters. She smiles. No, she says, actually, it dates back to the earliest days. That was at the beginning of Little Mix. Did she really believe she was a tiger? She shakes her head. I wanted to believe it. Now I'm genuinely in the best headspace I've been, but back then I used to pretend I was. I was actually like a little lamb. I do believe as you get older, you learn to not give a shit. Uh, and then the article continues. Maybe listen to Nelson tell her story, though, and it seems anything but a linear progression towards self belief. As a little girl, she says she was perfectly at ease with herself in her early teens. She was bullied and developed alopecia. By her late teens, she was working at a bar in Romford, East London, hugely popular and living life. Before I got into the industry, any of my friends and family will tell you I was the most confident person. Then it all fell apart. Okay, I don't really like this. Um, this like editorializing bit that he does here. So she says, like, I do believe as you get older, you learn not to give a shit.
Mhm.
And then he essentially says, like, maybe, but if you listen to her talk, she actually doesn't say that.
Yeah, he's, like, counteracting what she just said.
Yeah, which like I understand where he's coming from, but I also like I understand what she means here, and I've said it on this podcast.
Yeah.
And I still believe it. And you're getting older. Maybe you want to add. But like, because it's almost been a year since we started this podcast.
Yeah.
Like as you get older, especially in this transition time from like late teens into your 20s, you do learn to not give as much of a shit. It's not that your insecurities go away. It's not that you stop caring, but like something just changes as you get older. And it doesn't mean that like this stuff can't still be a problem and you can't still have mental health issues related to this and you can't still have trauma that gets triggered. So he kind of seems dismissive,
Yeah.
and that really bothers me, but like this doesn't have to do with her mental health stuff. This is what happens as you get older. This is why people tell you that like you won't care about that like when you're older as a teenager. It's not because they're trying to be condescending. It's because as you get older, things do change. The way you see shit changes. The way you see yourself, the way you see other people, the way you process information. Like it's part of growing up. It's what happens. That is 1,000% true. It just doesn't protect you, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like he's, like, one, taking what she said about her job before the industry out of context. Like, she definitely did not say that right here, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
um and I feel like if he was so unsure about this linear progression he says, then why didn't he ask? You know what I mean? He could have asked, and then it would have been written um, a lot more right. I don't know.
Yeah, like, he's clearly just trying to, like,
Stir up.
contradict her.
Yeah.
He's clearly just trying to do that. And, like, I understand what he's saying in the sense that, like, Jesy is saying, as I got older in the group, like, throughout the 10 years in the group, as I got older, I, like, learned not to care as much and I grew a thicker skin, is what she's saying. And she said something very similar in the Cosmo article. She said it differently there. She said, when I got in the band, like, my confidence was a 0. When I got older and I learned not to care as much, got to, like, a 4.5 or whatever it was. And then, like, when I left the band, it's like an 8, 8.5 or whatever it is. So, like, that, and I think, like, that number scale she gave is actually a really great example. She's saying, like, being young and absolutely decimated and absolutely, like, all of my perceptions of myself, I was a 0 in confidence. And then when I got older, like, and nothing else about my perceptions, like, changing to help me, like, without really truly getting treatment, I got to a 4.5. That's a pretty fucking big raise. It's also a pretty abysmal number, that will still lead to a lot of mental health issues. Like, I thought that that made a lot of sense in her Cosmo article, and I feel like he was very dismissive here, but, like, she's right. As a 25-year-old going through this right now with mental health issues, she's right. He's being a little condescending.
Yeah.
I understand what he's doing. I understand he's trying to, like, show that, like, trolling and fame is Jesse's issue, which again is a problem in and of itself that he's doing that, because that's not taking into account trauma. But, like, I understand what he's trying to do. I just don't like it.
Yeah, yeah.
Also, like you were saying, clearly, like, the quote of before I got into the industry, like, my friends would tell you I was the most confident person, then it fell apart. It's clearly not happening at this part of the interview. They clearly had a very, very long chit chat about her entire timeline, and he's just picking and taking and restructuring the whole thing.
Yeah, he's like doing it for his own advantage there. And like, I get it. I've done that in yearbook, but then again, my stories weren't about like celebrities' mental health. It was about football.
Yeah, I don't know. So just to be clear though, like, he's got his own agenda. This is why I didn't want to say he's unbiased the way journalism should be, but he has his own agenda. His agenda just isn't Jesse's, if that makes sense. All right, moving on. This is going to be a long episode, guys. Apologies. We'll try to move a little bit faster. Okay, so on the X Factor, she got through the audition on a 3-1 vote. Gary Barlow, who was head judge in the absence of Simon Cowell, gave her a big thumbs down. Gary hated me. He was like, oh, Jesy, I found that audition terrible. Your voice is very generic. She does a great impression of Barlow's monotone. Even though she hadn't expected to progress, she was devastated by his reaction. The judges couldn't understand why. After all, she just got through to the next stage. I said to my mom, I'm not coming back on X Factor. I'm never doing that again. Dermot O'Leary, the presenter, was like, why are you crying? You got through. He inserts into the article the line of, maybe this was a sign she was too sensitive for the business. And then he makes it appear that Jesy agrees and says, maybe, she says quietly. This is part of what's up with this. We don't actually know what he said, but he's made it seem like she was telling the story. He said, maybe you were too sensitive for the business. And she went, maybe. That's how it's written. That's not what
Mhm.
happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just so we're, like, clear here. So, like, we're just kind of hoping he's keeping the integrity of what she said. Um, but that's like it. This is what I was talking about when I said it was kind of phrased weirdly or written weirdly to read anyway. Um, She says the X Factor did nothing to support her when the trolling started. When I was struggling, I didn't feel there was anyone I could talk to. We were like babies. Perry was 17. I was 20. I'm hoping that programs like this are now taking more responsibility. It's so important because nobody prepares you for what you're about to go through. Um, she says, he says, what should reality shows such as the X Factor provide by way of support? She says, I think they should have a therapist there, and whether you like it or not, while you're in that process, you have to go and see them. The week after we talk, ITV announced that there'd be no further shares of the X Factor, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. That makes me wonder what exactly the mental health options for the search were. I thought
Mhm.
maybe she would mention it, But if she did, he didn't quote her, and or maybe she just didn't. But it makes me wonder, like, what they were offering in the search, because we know that a big budget went towards this, but they never said expressly like what their actual like care plan was for the contestants in this way. So
Yeah.
it made me wonder, but that I guess she never talked about it, or he never quoted her on it. Okay, so then it goes through and it talks about Little Mix was the most successful act to emerge from the X Factor after One Direction. They developed a reputation for poppy hits about empowerment, independence, and confidence. They spoke about sisterhood and girl power. They've had 5 number ones in the UK. There were 30 top 40 singles. All 6 albums have made the top 4 in the UK, with the first 2 reaching respective numbers in the US charts. And they are the only girl group to spend 100 weeks in the UK top 10. I asked Nelson when she was happiest in the band. Her answer leaves me flabbergasted. It left me flabbergasted too. I don't know why, but like, I don't know. There was a weird moment for me. I'll explain it after. Jesy says, when we first got put together before all the TV stuff, we were all living in Perry's mom's pub in Essex. And I think for all of us, it was the most magical time. It was so new and we didn't know what was going to happen. We just dreamed about what we thought was going to be like. We'd all go to Camden and buy matching outfits. There was no bad. It was all good. He inserts in the middle of her quote, this was before episodes had aired, before anyone knew they existed. And she goes, yeah, but don't get me wrong, I still wouldn't change my journey. It's made me who I am today. I was surprised by this.
Really?
Yes, but only in the sense that, like, I forgot it existed.
Oh.
This is what was interesting about it for me. That's a side of Little Mix that's only for them.
Mhm.
The group only exists before the TV show for them. That wasn't recorded. We never saw that. We never knew it happened. They don't talk about it. So that's literally a part of the group history that is completely not about fans, that we are excluded from. And so obviously I knew it happened. I remember her talking about it on the search. I remember her like actually being very animated about it. But I never really think of that as like, oh, that's part of like Little Mix.
Yeah.
I think of like when they're on the TV show. I think about after they won. Like I think about the things that came, literally everything after that. Like I don't even really consider them like truly formed before they go sing for Jessie J. I mean, I know they were, but like in my head as a fan who's not in the group, who's not part of it, right? Like to me, they don't truly exist until they go perform at judges' houses.
Yeah.
So when he was like the whole time in the band, when were you like happiest? And she was like, this private time that existed before anyone else, like that involves no one else. That's what left me flabbergasted about it, is I was like, holy shit, our definition of Little Mix is different. Like,
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that surprised me was how specific the answer was. Cause
yeah.
like I figured she would just say performing or, like the Brits. Um and then when she said this, I was like, "Oh, that's more specific than I was expecting," but the answer makes sense.
Yeah, it absolutely makes sense. I wonder if it's an answer she came to during lockdown.
Probably.
It was just like a real reality check moment for me. Even though I say this all the time, I feel like it still hit me. Like I was still like, oh, I need to check myself. Little Mix to her is very different than what Little Mix is to us and to me. She has access. This is such obvious, but I feel like we overlook this a lot. She has access to so many more memories and pieces of information than we ever will even know is missing.
Yeah.
And what Little Mix is to her is absolutely a completely different beast to what Little Mix is to all of us. And that's like the reality check moment I had when I read that. Okay, so then he says, I'm just going to say he says, you guys, I'm just going to hope that by now you guys are going to realize that means that he's inserting commentary as if he's actually going back and forth with her, but
Yeah.
he's not. He's like writing it in. Can I do that?
Yeah.
It's otherwise it's really weird to read, guys. Anyway, so uh she says, yeah, don't get me wrong, I still wouldn't change my journey. It's made me who I am today. And then he writes. Is there always going to be one person in a group who feels less than the others? And Jesy says, I really do believe that. I would be very shocked to hear of any band where everyone felt equal. I don't think that's possible because you're always going to get compared who they think looks better, who they think sings better. There's always going to be one person that people think is weaker. He writes, when people attacked her on social media, was it always about her appearance? Jesy says, yeah, it was never about my singing or my dancing. It was always about how I looked. Um, if there are any like 2011 stands listening, I'd love to know if this is true. Nowadays, it's a lot about her looks, but they also come for other things, like her singing and her dancing. They do come for that now, but it is primarily her looks. I'm wondering if back in the day, it really was just like so overwhelmingly her looks, even more so than it is now.
Yeah.
So if you're 2011 Stan, well, let us know. He mentions, to be fair, Nelson isn't the only one who has struggled. In May, her bandmate leigh-anne made a documentary in which she talked about how her blackness made her the least favored member of the group. She said that she felt like she had to work 10 times harder and longer to mark her place in the group because her talent alone isn't enough. I did some weird quoting, guys, in that. Sorry, who cares? I don't really know what the point of that was.
No, it doesn't really.
It kind of feels like he's doing it to minimize her again.
Yeah, be like, oh, it wasn't just her, but this article is about just her.
Yeah, like this article is about her and her experience. I don't know whether like he's trying to minimize or whether he's anticipating other people doing it, but this literally serves no purpose. And this isn't something Jesy denied. She said that I think that you're always going to have someone who doesn't feel equal. That's leigh-anne saying she didn't feel equal. So it's not like this contradicted her in any way. This just feels like it's bringing it up to be like she's kind of the big baby.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't love that. His mental health handling is not great. Nelson's relationship with social media is complex, as it is for so many people. Alongside the abuse came adulation. In the early days, Little Mix's management said they all had to get on platforms such as Twitter and Instagram to boost their brand. While Nelson has experienced shocking abuse, she also has an army of supporters, 8.2 million followers on Instagram, hanging on her every word. Okay, I don't totally get what this has to do with it either. It feels like more minimizing. Because he doesn't go anywhere with it.
Yeah, I don't really see the point.
So, like, spoiler alert, but like, he doesn't talk about this later. So, he doesn't bring this
Yeah.
up to her. So, he's literally just saying it to minimize her side of things, which I guess is like maybe an attempt to be objective, but really is just being really.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, we'll keep going. Things reached Nadir. I want to say Nadir. Is that not how you pronounce it?
I think
I'm
so.
looking it up.
I have no idea.
Nadir. I think that's right. Anyway, he's using fancy language. Things reached a low point in 2013. Nelson says she was addicted to social media. She couldn't resist reading what the trolls were saying. Even though she knew it would make her unhappy, she convinced herself that there was a logic to it. Knowledge was power, and she was arming herself. Now she knows just how unhealthy it was. It's like a drug. I was reading it every day. The minute I got up, the first thing I did, I type in Jesy Nelson and then Jesy Nelson fat or Jesy Nelson ugly and read what everyone said about me. That's terrible, I say, meaning he said that. Jesy goes, yes, I was trying to mentally prepare myself for what was to come and get used to what people were saying about me. He continues, she became terrified of going out and her absences were noted by the press. Jesy said, when it was in the papers that I wasn't turning up to work, it was just, oh, Jessy's not well, but really I was hiding away. I didn't want to get papped because I think I might have butchered that. Hang on. Then he continues to write, she became terrified of going out and her absences were noted by the press. When it was in the papers that I wasn't turning up to work, it was just, oh, Jessy's not well, but really I was hiding away. I didn't want to get papped because I'd gotten so insecure about the way I looked. There were times I didn't want anyone to look at me. I just felt everybody hated me. I didn't know what I was doing wrong, and it consumed me. She started referring to herself as an ugly rat.
There it is again.
Okay, first of all, I fucked it up the first time, so I tried to reread it, and then I started paraphrasing it. So Guys, I'm really trying. Here's the thing. You UK people. Um you don't speak with proper English.
Very hard.
I don't mean that in like a judgy way, but like I'm not used to reading it. You know what I mean? So when he
Yeah.
quotes her and she's speaking the way she would talk, I don't talk that way. Sorry guys, I'm trying. um I promise I'm never paraphrasing anything important. I'm always adding in like I'm changing a verb tense or adding in like just or something. Um, and Chanel in the Dream is reading along and would call me out if I was changing the meaning of something. Um, Magazines often featured her, and there were only two topics. She was gaining weight or losing weight. The more she read about herself, the more she went on extreme diets. It became a vicious cycle of self loathing. Jesy says, I'd only eat a packet of ham for a day or drink Diet Coke for a week and not eat anything. And then I remember getting to my skinniest at one point. I went on the Daily Mail website, which I was obsessed with, and there was a pat picture of me, and the headline was about me losing weight. All the comments were about, oh my God, she's far too skinny. She looks awful. And I remember feeling so happy because that's all I ever wanted. She pauses. Now I look back, it's mad. I went to see a therapist and she said, you know, that's an eating disorder, don't you? I never realized just drinking Diet Coke for a week was an eating disorder. My manager said, Jesy, you're so tiny, you've got body dysmorphia. Did the girls tell her the same thing? Yes, all the time, but it didn't matter to me because everything I read was the opposite. Okay, lots to unpack here. Okay, so first off, this is kind of what I was saying last time. And the last thing is that she has an eating disorder.
Yeah.
I didn't want to call it that because I cannot diagnose her, but she went to a therapist and they did. Yeah, so now we can get that out of the way. I've never heard her use the word eating disorder though.
No, me neither.
That was interesting because he's picking and choosing her quotes. I can't tell if she went to a therapist back then and was told it was an eating disorder and she's just never used the word, or
Or
if she's
now.
recently been to a therapist and been told
Yeah.
it was an eating disorder. I can't tell what the timeline on it is, but I've never heard her ever use the word eating disorder herself.
Yeah, me neither.
So that was really interesting to me. And then biodysmorphia. Technically, it's not the correct like like illness definition for body dysmorphia is not really how they're using it, but it is the colloquially common, I didn't say that right, way to use it. Um
Mm-hmm.
so like we're not going to nitpick it, but just so you guys all know, like body dysmorphia is an illness you can get diagnosed with, and there is much more to it, and it is not, this is a little bit misleading about what it is. But we're gonna let it slide. But if you think you might have body dysmorphia or anything like that, please don't be basing it based off of this. Go research it. Sorry, I hit the mic. Go research it somewhere else on your own. Go talk to a professional. That they're using it in the way that the mainstream does and not necessarily in the clinical way. That said, if you want to talk about the mainstream use of it, and I mean, she honestly, she could have the clinical body dysmorphia. I can't diagnose her. Also, she has never talked about how she perceives her body and like what she sees when she looks in a mirror. And without knowing that, and without be able to do a minimum of that, you can't even really speculate on whether she does or doesn't. But as far as like, obviously, she doesn't see something accurate when she looks in the mirror. I think we can all
Yeah.
agree on that, which is what they're trying to say here. Do the girls tell her the same thing? Yes, all the time, but it didn't matter to me because everything I read was the opposite. I think this is kind of like a throwaway line. I don't think it really matters.
Yeah, I feel like it was just they needed something else to put there.
Yeah. Um, my manager, I wonder when that happened. Jesy, you're so tiny, you got biodysmorphia. I wonder when that was. Is that the manager that went to
Yeah.
her with the gym in Glory Days era? How long have the managers been like handling her? Um, anyway, so anything else you want to add to that?
No, I feel like a lot of this was stuff that we knew, but we're getting like one extra detail out of. You know what I mean?
I feel like some of it too is just seeing her progression with it,
Mm-hmm.
like using the word eating disorder.
Yeah.
The story of not the story, but like people were saying she looks awful, she's too thin, and I was like, I remember feeling so happy because that's all I ever wanted. Like that's something we've never heard from her before.
Mm-hmm.
Is it surprising? No, it's not. But I do personally really enjoy hearing these new details from her. All right, moving on. In November of 2013, Little Mix returned to the X Factor for a guest visit. At this point, Nelson had already been criticized for losing too much weight after their appearance. Right wing rent mouth Katie Hopkins tweeted, we all know what she tweeted. Nelson knew she shouldn't let anything Hopkins said get to her, but it did. I thought, what is the fucking point? I'm literally starving myself. I've drunk Diet Coke for a week and I'm still getting called fat. I went to a really dark place and did what I did. And then he clarifies she took an overdose and was taken to hospital. That's interesting to me. The first part, I thought, what's the fucking point? I'm literally starving myself is almost a direct quote from her documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder why. This is super speculative and probably not important, guys, FYI. Sometimes when I've had to talk about things so often, and they were like big moments to me, I have ways I like to tell them, and I tell it the same way every time. Is that just me?
No, I know what you're talking about.
I did immediately recognize it. I thought it was interesting that she was using the exact same phrasing. This is the part of the article, guys, where we actually get to like the new piece he was teasing, like 40 minutes ago. Her mother was devastated. Jesy says, I think she felt like a bad mom, that she didn't know how bad it was. She was really disappointed in herself, which absolutely crushes me because there was no way my mom could have known it was that bad unless I'd sat down and spoken to her about it. Mom wanted me to come out of the group. My mom still to this day would rather me go back to being a barmaid than doing this. I believe that.
Yeah. I think she said that before, right?
Yeah, she said it and I went out. Her brother, a property developer, said she should stick it out and things would get better. He's a tough cookie. And I'm really glad he did say that because I wouldn't be here now if I'd quit. He inserts, she means that if she had left Little Mix back then, she doubts she would have gone on to have a solo career. I want to know how he knows that.
Honestly.
I'm not saying that that's not true. Like, I'm not saying that's not what she meant, but I want to know how you know that. Did you have a clarifying conversation that you wanted to cut out? So you just like inserted that, or are you just assuming because I don't really trust you yet?
Yeah.
So she means the. How do you know? Jesy goes, he knew I was stronger than that, and it was just a phase that I could get through. For a while, things did improve. She deleted her Twitter account. For Nelson, the most aggressive of social media platforms. Meanwhile, Little Mix continued to enjoy great success in the singles and albums charts. But in 2018, a spat between their management company, Modest, and their record label Psycho resulted in a transfer to RCA and another label under Sony Music umbrella. Nelson says Little Mix were the collateral damage. Okay, so interesting that he uses the word transfer.
Yeah.
Rather than they re-signed to RCA. So did their contract with Psycho just get transferred to RCA?
Maybe?
I don't know. Interesting there.
Question mark?
Interesting language. She says they were the collateral damage. Jesy goes, the incident that led to us leaving the label was nothing to do with us as a band. It was to do with other people that worked for us who we didn't want to leave. He inserts, for once, her language becomes a little cautious. She laughs and says it's at times like this that she misses having the girls around her.
I feel like this also confirms like what exactly happened with like Psycho and stuff, because like I know that they've said multiple times that this is what happened, but I feel like in a solo I just got like Australian, I don't know what just happened there. In a solo interview would be when we would know exactly what's going on, because now she's not surrounded by their team who could have tried to like keep something
like
under wraps,
there's no one there that cares what she says about Psycho.
She would have no repercussions, and so it just kind of puts all of the I'm just gonna say it. Annoying rumors and the fans who keep going on and on and on that this is what happened.
Oh, are we talking about Perry trying to go solo rumors, or Perry being offered solo rumors? Is that what we're going on about?
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Okay.
A little bit.
God. Yeah. It's interesting that they didn't want to leave. That is the vibe I've gotten in the past when they've talked about this, that it wasn't their choice to leave. I think it's I don't know, it's interesting. Okay, he continues to write, and Nelson thinks the move to RCA was disastrous. I wanna know, like, was this her word? Like,
Yeah.
he don't
Or
quote
is
her
he,
with it,
like
but, like, are you just
is he amplifying it?
so then she then is actually quoted as saying, "It was just a bit shit because we loved our whole team. When Little Mix started out, and for a long time we were very authentic. We'd go in and write together, but as we got older and changed the label, we lost heart in it a bit. We were given songs and I hated them. I was like, I don't want to be on them. I don't like the song. I don't ever want to be an artist who puts out something I don't believe in." Should we stop there?
Yes, that there goes everybody who's saying, "Jesy just doesn't like to write. Jesy just doesn't like to do this."
Mhm.
No, that's not the case here.
You guys remember a really long time ago when I mentioned that, like, there could be mental health related reasons for why Jesy didn't have writing credits in the last few years?
Full circle, huh?
Huh. I gotta love when you're
Yeah.
right.
Honestly.
Alright, but, I remember this causing a shit stir on social media, so let's talk about it.
Mhm.
Um, okay, so, yeah, disaster seems like I don't know if it was her word or not, he doesn't quote her as using it, but she says, "A bit shit," and he goes, "Disastrous." Like, um, just to be clear, okay, before we, like I mean, we all know it wasn't, like, a disastrous move, but still, just to be clear, he's clearly kind of, like, dramatizing it.
Yeah.
Um Okay, so she says when they started out and for a long time we were very authentic. We'd go in and write together. I'm thinking she probably means DNA and salute.
Yeah, probably.
As we got older and changed the label, we lost heart in it a bit. Okay, I think this is taking Glory Days, Get Weird Glory Days, and a little bit of LM5 in that whole sentence. I think we'd go in and write together is DNA and Salute because they have so many writing credits as a group.
Mhm.
Um, Get Weird and Glory Days, they really didn't write on.
Yeah, it's when they started to fall off a little bit.
Yeah, as a group or even really individually that much. Leigh-Anne wrote a couple songs on her own and Leigh wrote a couple like for Get Weird. Glory Days, it's Jesy was the most songwriting credits and it's like 4. I think the time in between where like they were afraid they were going to get dropped and like the situation with Black Magic, I think that's also what she's kind of referring to here. Like they were afraid that like the band just like wouldn't continue because the label was going to drop them. They were concerned that there just like wouldn't be an album. They couldn't find a single. They were forced into Black Magic because they couldn't write something else. They missed multiple deadlines for the album. That time period, I think, was a lot more tumultuous and a problem than we really know. And I think that's partly what she's referring to because that is when we had an immediate down in like writing credits, especially as a group.
Mhm.
That was also again when they start releasing these songs that Jessy's like, I hate.
Yeah.
And then she goes, we changed the label, which means it didn't get better, like LM5 to Confetti, which isn't a surprise because she didn't really write on Confetti either. Obviously, we don't know whether or not she wrote songs that just didn't make it, but at the very least, she's saying, I lost heart in writing as we got older, as we changed the label. Like, I just wasn't feeling it and I stopped writing. Okay. It's not about not enjoying writing, like, just kind of beaten down. um, so and then she was saying, you know, we were being given songs. I hated them. I don't want to be on them. I don't like the song. Okay, I saw a lot of drama about this of being like, that's so disrespectful to Leigh. They wrote on Confetti and like they've talked about how they had creative freedom on Confetti. Okay. Leigh having creative freedom and Jesy having creative freedom are not the same thing.
Yeah.
If Jesy wants to do something that the other 3 don't want to do, Jesy doesn't have creative freedom. Jesy does not get to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So the group having creative freedom does not mean each girl has creative freedom. Just so we're clear there. And then also, she's not saying that I hated the songs that Leigh-Anne and Jade wrote. She's saying I hated the songs that RCA was giving us. She could even be saying, like, I didn't like the songs that Psycho were giving us, like Black Magic.
Mhm.
So I think like this is encompassing a lot of years, basically starting in the Get Weird era and continued into RCA, which obviously would be pretty fucking disencouraging. That wasn't correct. And I think this is actually really interesting. And if you're finding shade in it to anyone except for RCA and Psycho, then you're looking for drama. Like, I think this is actually a very interesting tidbit. And I think it says a lot about kind of like her mindset the last like what like 7 years, 6 years.
Mhm.
Um, and makes me excited to see what she's going to write for her own album. Because if she was stopped writing because she felt, you know, like she lost heart in it and she didn't feel authentic anymore, then her getting to like just start all over and brand new and do exactly what she wants. I can't wait to hear what that writing sounds like. Um, so that's my thought there. What about you?
No, I agree. I feel like this part is still sticking out to me, just the fact that about the creative freedom, um, how she still didn't feel like she had it, and leigh-anne did, and how people were, like, talking about that and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, for some reason that just, like, sticks out to me. I feel like a lot of the fans need to realize that even though they're, uh what's the rules, I guess, whatever that the label gives them, um, might have been looser and they could do what they wanted. If you're still in a group, you're still have higher ups, so you really don't have the freedom that everybody thinks you do. Um,
Yeah, like I'd like to point out they were also telling us they had a lot of freedom when they were under Psycho.
yeah.
And I don't think that they were lying either time. My personal take on it is that, you know, Jada's described it as when they were at Psycho, they had control in what they were doing, but they were being bartered with. We'll give you this if you give us this. If you want this, you have to do this. That doesn't mean they had no creative control. It means that they were making sacrifices.
Yeah.
That doesn't like mean that everything they did wasn't true to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's not a falsifying of something. You know what I mean? Like they still had creative control and freedom and say in what they were doing. There was just a bartering system in place. And then at RCA, it sounds like the bartering system is not there, but that doesn't mean that there aren't rules and guidelines and discussions and agreements that have to be made as far as album direction and songs and what's possible and what the label is willing to put in based on what you're willing to give them. Um, so like just because RCA doesn't barter with them does not mean like free and clear they can do whatever they want just as a hypocrite.
Yeah. I think a lot of people just need to realize that.
Did I phrase that well enough?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. Um so all right. Do then came the pandemic and lockdown, which proved life changing. I feel really bad saying this, but in lockdown, it was the happiest I've ever been. I was isolating with my best friend, and we just pissed around and laughed every day. I'd not felt a true inner happiness like that for a very long time. So she said lockdown before. Of course, we've had like a gajillion lockdowns. Um, when she kept saying lockdown, I didn't really know exactly what she was referring to. But here she makes it clear that like this revelation came while isolating with Charlotte,
Yeah.
which should be a dumb moment, but you never want to assume. um, and I think that's really interesting. I would love to go back and do a little bit of research and figure out when it was that Charlotte moved in with her. It was around breakup song, wasn't it?
I think so. I just remember, like, all of a sudden her being there.
I think it was breakup song into holiday.
Yeah, that seems right.
Because I remember them posing in like breakup song merch.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think I remember some holiday references too. So I think it was breakup song into holiday is when I think that this happened, if I had to
Yeah.
guess. All right, he writes last October. That I'll bring that up again. Why I'm saying that later, right now, actually, in a moment. Last October, Little Mix returned to work to make a video for the single "Sweet Melody." Jesy says in lockdown, I just become a little porky pig and eating whatever I wanted, and then they'd sprung on us 2 weeks prior. Oh, you've got a music video. I got in a panic because I'd put on weight. The panic was exasperated by the styling for the video. They were like, "You've got to wear a bikini." Obviously, I don't have to wear it, but I knew I couldn't be in a video with the other 3 wearing a bikini and me in a dressing gown. I got in such a state about having to lose weight in 2 weeks and wear a bikini. I went back to work and was really down about myself. He goes on and says, in the end, she wore a corset while the others displayed their midriffs. I think she talked about Holiday and Sweet Melody, and he mixed them up.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. I noticed that. I was like, this doesn't. This isn't.
This sounds like he read her Cosmo interview. And it sounds like she was probably talking about both in this interview, but because he
Mhm.
knew about the panic attack from the Cosmo interview, he just assumed it was Sweet Melody.
Yeah.
It sounds like to me, and I could be wrong because I'm guessing because this guy didn't do his job right, that she had to go do the music video for Holiday.
Mhm.
She was not happy about having to be put into a bikini. This doesn't surprise me. I would believe this. She's the only girl who has an outfit change in the Holiday music video. I wonder why. She feels like she has to wear it. There's that, and then I also remember her posting after, like, by the time the Holiday music video came out, she posted, like, a pat picture of her that was not very flattering and was like, "Yeah, in case anyone's wondering, like, I don't look anything like that Holiday, like, the way I looked in Holiday. This is what I look like now," like, and she posted one of her, like, "Love yourself," like, "Be happy, eat whatever you want," like, and then she obviously we already know the story about Sweet Melody where it happened again. It got sprung on her, and she was like, "Well, shit, now I have to diet." Didn't like how she looked in the video. Had a panic attack on set. Caused this whole thing to spiral out of control. That's the timeline that I am working with in my head based on the information I have. Because he fucked this whole thing up, which is why I was mentioning that up earlier. He continues and says Nelson was often dressed differently from the others in videos. For example, while they wore white, she would often wear black. I never wanted to wear white because I thought it made me look fat. So I'd wear black, and there would be this constant joke online among fans. Oh, someone forgot to tell Jesy about the white memo. That made me think of Apple Music 2018.
Yeah.
That was the first one that popped into my head.
Yeah. Really, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if that was the Holiday video. So she was supposed to wear white to match Perry, and Jade and leigh-anne were supposed to match with the black, and then she switched to a black bikini.
Mhm.
I wonder if that has something to do with it.
Maybe.
Although, like, again, like, if you know that though, like, why the fuck are the stylists putting her in white?
I have no idea.
It continues. Just before Little Mix appeared on BBC Radio 1's Live Lounge, Nelson had a panic attack and Perry Edwards had to take over her part. She'd had them previously, but never performance related. Jesy goes, I was having these panic attacks out of nowhere. I couldn't understand what was happening. It got to the point where I thought, this is too much. I need to come out of this now. Okay. We're getting to a dark place, guys. So take a deep breath, prepare. I remember seeing this and thinking that this was weird because she'd never talked about them being performance related.
Mhm.
And I remember thinking, like, I wonder what triggered it. Like, that seems really weird.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that this is confirming that, like, they'd never been performance related. It was weird. um, and then I wonder how many more of these we didn't see.
Honestly, yeah.
Because she says, I was having them out of nowhere. I couldn't understand what was happening.
So we know it happened more than once.
So it happened on the Sweet Melody music video. It happened here. And then that, 2 times isn't enough to make you go like, oh, especially if you've had them before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So how many times are you having random panic attacks that are different from the way you used to get panic attacks? I imagine that, like, between Holiday to Sweet Melody, it was not good.
Yeah.
Is kind of what it feels like. It feels like it was very much on a downward spiral, and Sweet Melody was like the last straw.
Probably, yeah.
Speaking of, we're going to get to that now. Nelson has been calm but starts to cry. His writing is so, like, stilted.
I know.
Jesy says, I did the music video and had a panic attack, and it was pretty mental that day. God, I haven't really spoken about it, and I'm getting upset. Sorry. She brushes her tears away. After the video, I just got back in a really dark place and ended up back in hospital. That was when my mom said, "No more." The tears are still falling, and she grabs another tissue. He really is so stilted. Jesy says, I had already decided. Then the girls spoke to mom and said, we think Jesy should come out of this now. She has to look after herself. So in the end, it was their decision as much as hers. Yeah, she says. Yeah, I know there are people who think I've let the other girls down and that I'm so selfish, but I do think there comes a time in life when you do have to be selfish and look after yourself. And it was really affecting me mentally. Okay, we're going to pause. There's more coming, but we're going to pause. The big things to me, she mentions she hasn't really spoken about it and she's getting upset.
Mm-hmm.
She obviously ended up in the hospital. And the girls were a part of the decision. And then fourth, Kate, this is not selfish. She keeps talking about it that way, and she referred to it as selfish in her exit letter. And everyone is calling her selfish on social media. So I see why she's using that word. It's not selfish.
Mm-hmm.
She has an illness. I'm just sorry, but like it's so annoying. Like the shit that people get away with saying because it's mental and not physical.
Yeah.
Like that's not and guys, like there's a difference between like mental health and mental illness. We've talked about this before. And like mental health is important, but like mental health is not mental illness. Like they're not the same thing. An illness is an illness. We all have mental health. We don't all have a mental illness.
Yeah.
Your physical health can be poorly or not at its best, and you wouldn't leave a job because of that. But if you have a debilitating illness that's interfering with that job and you leave, that's not selfish. Like, I just, okay, I'm fine. Let's move on. It's fine. Okay, let's go back to the start. She says, I haven't really spoken about it and I'm getting upset. So this is something she talked about with Odd One Out, that like she cried about it every time she tried to talk about it because she'd never talked about it. And she's saying, I haven't really talked about it, so I'm getting upset. Does she mean she's not talking about it as much as she was for her documentary, where she would have been like overstimulated and like overexposed talking about it and would have very quickly kind of been desensitized to an extent? Or does she mean like she hasn't been talking about it really at all? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I feel like it's such like a, well, it is, but like it's just like a taboo subject that it's really just, we don't know until she says it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
We
yeah.
won't know like anything.
Yeah, hopefully what that means is that she's just not going through the same type of intense process that she went through with the documentary, which is a very like weird situation to have been through that process. And like that's not necessarily the recommended way to do it. Okay, ended up back in hospital. So obviously there was that rumor on Twitter on the night of the search when she just wasn't there, that she got rushed to the hospital. Everyone just kind of like forgot about it because obviously nothing came of it as far as we could tell. Something apparently did come from it that we didn't know.
And we still don't really know.
Exactly. Like here's what it is. Like what her saying that tells us is that it was really fucking bad.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't say why she was there, why she ended up there, how long she was there, what caused her to be admitted, and the fact that she didn't say more than ended up back in hospital means she's not ready to share. And that's pretty much just it.
Yeah.
Before we, run off with the wild half-cocked theories, we're going to wait to see if she ever decides to share more with us. And if she doesn't, then we just don't get to know.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that it means it was really bad. Her mom's saying no more. That's not surprising to me at all. I really feel for her mom, for Jan.
I know.
Okay, she had already decided. I'm interested about this timeline between, like, she decided the girl spoke to her mom, and I'm interested in the whole timeline thing. I think it's interesting that the girls didn't speak to her and they, like, went to her mom instead. Maybe that's, like, a COVID hospital thing.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that being a possibility, but
I don't know, we live in the US, we don't know what the UK COVID protocols are. Um, yeah, so I think that's interesting. I wonder what that conversation between, like, the girls and Jesse's mom actually looked like. Obviously, Jessie doesn't even really know because she wasn't there. Um, but I wonder what that actually looked like.
Yeah.
I think that's all of it, right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Moving on, guys. Okay, what added to the hurt, she says that there were people who made it clear they were glad to see the back of her. Certain people on my team didn't care. She comes to a stop. I'm not talking about the girls. There were people on my team who knew how I was feeling and didn't give a shit. They just weren't bothered. He inserts, she means management, question mark? Jessie says, yep, there was an energy when I walked into a room. I felt there were certain people on my team who just didn't want me to be there. I would love to know who this is.
I know, but I feel like that makes a lot of sense though because there's going to be like those few that she's talking about that were bothered by her wanting outfit changes or
Yeah.
all that stuff. And so I feel like that kind of like finally uh puts in place what we were like suspecting.
Yeah, and I think as someone who I really relate to her, she said this a number of times, even like before she left. Like when you're depressed, like you're not fun to be around.
Yeah.
um, and I think that like people don't. I feel like that's not a severe enough way to describe it for people to understand. Um, because it looks like you're just a killjoy, but like
You
you
can't help it.
literally can't control it. But people will get annoyed with you and like make it your personality and will like I've had even friends who like I knew cared about me fell trapped to this. Would be like, "Oh god, like why is she always so negative? Like can't she just like stop being negative?" And I'm like, "No. I can't. That's my problem." Like, I'm
Yeah.
depressed. I can't. Um like if I could, I would. Um so like it's a very easy trap to fall in, and so even people who care about you will be complete assholes and it will sour entire relationships because they're done with your attitude, and they act like you have control over it and you don't.
Hmm.
I asked whether her happiness has made it tough for the girls over the years. Of course, it's italicized. um means she emphasized it. We've all had our own problems, but it's never nice to be around someone who's down and doesn't want to be there. As much as I needed to come out of it for myself, I didn't want to keep putting 3 other people through that as well. Yeah, see that insecurity of like, you know, no one wants to be around someone like that.
Hmm.
I believe her when she says this, that she didn't want to keep putting it on the other 3 girls. And this comment is the one that matters the most to people based on social media response. Oh, again, by the way, the pissed off about the response to the news that the girls were part of the decision for her to leave because I literally saw people on social media who've been hating on her for a while, and then they read that part of the article, they're like, "Well, as long as the girls were involved." And I'm like, "What?"
What does that have to do with anything?
So, again, it's the same thing that we were talking about with Jade earlier. Jessie tells you she needs to leave for months, and that's not valid. But if the girl said she needed to leave, that's true friendship and sisterhood, and she did need to go.
Yeah, that doesn't. It's fine. It's fine.
Let it roll off. Let it roll off.
Oh god.
This is another version of that, I feel like. It's not okay for her to leave for herself, but it's okay for her to leave if she didn't want to put the other girls through it anymore.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's like another version of that, I feel like. Slightly different. I
Yeah, it
hate that.
is.
All right, then we have Now Little Mix is as a trio, 2 of whom are pregnant. Does she think the group will stay together? Jesy says, I reckon they'll look after their babies, go off and do their own things for a while, and then make a comeback together. I think they're just as sick as the 3. They're still doing it for girl power. I still love them to pieces. They were like my sisters. He inserts, has she been in touch with them? Jesy says, no, not as much, not now. I think we all need time. It's a big thing that's happened. All right. This is the bombshell, right? Right?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Pretty sure this is what you and I have been saying for months behind the scenes.
Yeah, it is. 100%.
Yeah. So, guys, remember that Sun article?
Remember that.
That like hour-long podcast I like ran almost by myself because you unfortunately had just gotten your wisdom teeth out. Where I talked about if Jesy wasn't talking to them, that didn't mean this, and it didn't mean, and if A, B, C, and D aligned perfectly, then remember when I twisted myself into a pretzel in that podcast?
Oh wait, can we pull that back out? Like, I really.
Yeah, this is what I meant. All right, so now that she said it, I'm just gonna say what I was really wanting to say back then.
Yeah.
This to me, tell me if you disagree with anything I'm about to say. Okay. This to me reads as, I love them. I'm not upset they're continuing as a 3. Which, guys, there's a universe in which Jesy could rightfully be upset about that, considering they spent 9.5 years saying they would never do that. This tells me she's not. She loves them. She thinks they're still doing great. She thinks that they're still representing what they've always wanted to represent as a group, and that the whole relationship we all saw was real. They were like my sisters. Now, there's a past tense there, which tells us things have changed. And then she confirms, no, we're not in touch right now. I think we all need time. It's a big thing that's happened. She does not seem resentful. She does not seem angry. She does not seem like she is being shady or like it. Like, honestly, it sounds perfectly mature. She couldn't have responded better, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And this right here, I think we all need time. It's a big thing that's happened. Have I not been telling you guys a variation of that since like December?
Honestly.
Have I not, though? Like, that life is complicated. Complicated things happen. Emotions are hard. Feelings are complex. Relationships change. Things you never thought would happen do happen. You need time to process. Like, have I not been saying this shit for a year? Anyway, we'll move on. Okay, so in March, 3 months after leaving Little Mix, Nelson announced she was going solo. Okay, this is wrong. It wasn't in March. It was in May.
Oh,
so this is like another thing where he poorly researched and had signed a deal with Polydor. While the reaction from fans was positive, the trolls were back in force. They claimed she had used mental health as an excuse and had always planned the new career. I mean, yeah, that did happen. It wasn't trolls, but yeah, that did happen. It was, cough starts with an M. Okay. For the only time today. Wait, sorry. This is an important line. I should. Okay. Trolls back and forth. They claim she used mental health as an excuse and had always planned the new career. Okay. For the only time today, she sounds defensive. First, she insists she was in no state to plan a solo career when she quit. Second, she had never ruled one out. That's not a quote, guys. So I want to know how she said it and why he didn't just quote her.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting to me. I don't necessarily doubt that she didn't say it like that, but I want to know why he didn't just quote her.
What if it was too long? Like, if she went to detail?
It might have been too long. Maybe she wasn't as well spoken with it, and he wanted it to be dramatic.
Maybe, yeah.
Because if it was me and I was first of all, I was in no state to plan a solo career when she quit, I would have gone on, you know what I mean? And then second, she had never ruled one out. And then he lets her continue for the second one, doing the rant. I imagine there was a rant after the first one.
Yeah, probably.
I'm more interested in the first rant because I've already heard the second. Okay, so then second, she never rolled one out. Jesy goes, what I've said about 1,000,000 times is that I never said I'm coming out of the band to never be in the public eye again. I said I'm coming out of Little Mix because I could not deal with the pressure of being in a girl band. Not that I can't deal with the pressures of being in the spotlight or being famous. Yes, she's correct. Can confirm I fact checked her and she's correct. uh, okay. It's interesting she's getting defensive. Again, I would have liked to hear her being defensive about the first one. I've already heard the second one in the Cosmo article. It's interesting that she says, I've said it about 1,000,000 times. Are there other interviews we haven't seen yet where she's been forced to talk about it, or has she just been seeing it a lot of places and feels like she's
defended herself?
Yeah. Okay. It's 8 years since she deleted her Twitter account. Nowadays, she says she tries not to read the negative stuff, and if she does, she can cope with it. Hand on my heart, it's like water off a duck's back now. And then he inserts, I wish I could believe her. She still seems sensitive to pile-ons. All right, we're getting into a place, guys. In May, she was accused on social media of blackfishing, a term used to describe white people who have altered their appearance to the extent that they look racially ambiguous. Okay, before we get to what she says, let's talk about that. Not about the accusation. Okay, he's being minimizing again, saying, I wish I could believe her.
And it felt like he was on her side up in the paragraph above, too. And then it, like, went right back the other way.
So that's the first thing with it. The second thing is that she still seems sensitive to pile-ons, brings up blackfishing. Okay, that's a problem because he's framing it like that accusation is just another form of trolling to be dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
Blackfishing is a real problem, and there are people who do it. His description of it is not accurate, but that's fine. His description is also
missing part of the definition.
It's missing part of the definition.
It is.
It is. It's missing part of the definition. That is correct.
That was the first thing I noticed. I was like, oh, that's not even the
it is. It's a missing part of the definition, and it's also the problematic definition, because racially ambiguous is not black. So it's the problematic definition, and then it's missing the second half. So it's not great there. So anyway, point being that before we even get to her response, the way it was handled by him, it was not meant to be something taken seriously. And it was something he doesn't even seem to understand himself. And honestly, as a white guy, probably shouldn't have been the one talking to her about it to begin with.
Yeah.
Anyway, then we'll get to her response. She says, I would never want to offend anyone, and that was really upsetting. I wasn't aware that's how people felt. He comments, she sounds bewildered by the allegation. That's the only thing we get on it. I said this last episode, why we're not going to get into a big conversation talk about this. It still applies to this episode. The only thing I'm personally going to say about this is, no, it's not the PR response that would have been best for her career. Do I think it was genuine? Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Should it have been included? No.
Yeah, no.
Do I think that it means she can finally start a process of learning? Yes. Do I think she knows what blackfishing is? No.
Yeah.
All this tells me is that now she's aware.
Yeah.
The concept exists, that the word exists, rather. Because if he's the one that explained blackfishing to her, then, well, we got a problem. It tells me she's aware that the word exists, that there are people upset. That's all it tells me.
Yeah.
I think something that's very much not taken into consideration in this conversation, which I think also might play into why he's dismissing it, besides the fact that he's white, is that she looks like every other white girl in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
So if she thinks it's normal and he thinks it's normal, they're not going to understand or take it seriously.
Yeah.
I think it might explain why he's framed it this way in the article. And I think it's why she sounds bewildered. Moving on. This time around, Nelson says she's determined not to succumb to the snipers. Yeah, I want to know what she actually said. Are those her words?
Honestly.
She believes she has found her voice in more ways than one. In addition to speaking out about bullying, she feels she's testing herself vocally. Did she say that?
Yes, not quoted, but did she say it?
The actual quote comes after that, and it says, in a group, you never really get to show off who you are because you get allocated a part. So now I'm doing this, I get to sing how I want. I have questions. That's exciting. Based on what we have so far, I'm getting runs, is what we're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if that says to her mentality in the group, though. Like, we always complained, right? Like, she sings the least. She doesn't do that many ad libs. She doesn't do high notes. She's not very adventurous. And we thought some of it was confidence, and some of it probably is. But she says, like, in a group, you never really get to show off who you are because you get allocated a part. I wonder if she was always just like, yeah, give me the part. Like, whatever, I'll just do it.
Honestly, yeah.
Whereas I think that, like, leigh-anne, Jane, and Perry want to test themselves vocally and probably seek parts that do that. And Jess is probably like, I'll just take whatever's left.
Yeah, she'll just settle for what's left.
I wonder if maybe that speaks to that. And so I wonder what that means, you know, for like her songs. I don't think Boys will show us vocally what she's talking about here.
No.
I think it's a first single. It's like it's going to be probably a little bit too hip hop for something like that. But I'm hoping some of the R&B sounds, more R&B songs, show us this.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what I got. What did you get out of it?
Pretty much the same thing, that she never really felt challenged in her parts. And it's interesting to see, like, just she's gonna sing how she wants, and so it's like, what if it's like completely different? Like, it's like something completely different. I would scream.
Okay, speaking of the new song, Nelson sent me one of her new songs called Boys. It's an R&B influence with an element of hip-hop thrown in for good measure, including a sample from P. Diddy's Bad Boy for Life. In the song, co-written with producers Loose Change, she calls herself out for being attracted to bad boys. Okay, co-written with producers Loose Change. So are we officially saying she's written it?
That's what it seems like they're implying. So,
right?
Yeah.
That's exciting. I think she'll probably be writing on almost all of the songs on her album, if not all of them.
Probably.
Okay, I do have to admit, guys, I don't remember if we talked about this last time. He says she calls herself out being attracted to bad boys. I was like, oh, good, great, it's another song about guys. Like, it was like fabulous. I try to be a little bit more forgiving with any like new artist I listen to when it comes to stuff like that, because they're either new to me or new in general, and so you don't want to like write them off before they've really gotten to do anything, or you've like given them a chance. So I always try to kind of not do that in general, but so I'm trying not to do that with Jesy. But I will say some of my like irritation with like it's another song about boys faded a bit in this next portion, because I realized that it was actually probably like about her.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like we haven't had a song in Little Mix that's actually been about them for a very long time.
Not really, no.
I warmed up to it a little bit in the way I warmed up to Shout Out to My Ex, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're about a guy, but it's like very much about you. So like,
Yeah, a specific guy.
this is like your story. You know what I mean? Like, at least it's your
Yeah.
feelings, your story, your take. That makes it better in my head. Anyway, so she goes on to say, actually, she says, it's not quite so simple when it comes to relationships. All but one treated me so lovely, like a princess. But a year down the line, I get a bit bored and they become my friend. I'm always more attracted to someone who keeps me on my toes, which sounds mental, but that's what excites me. We already know this. Over the past year, she had an intense on-off relationship with actor Sean Sagar. He moved into her Essex home before the third lockdown. Then they broke up. They followed each other on Instagram in March. Unfollowed each other on Instagram in March. I asked if Boys is dedicated to him. I want to know how much of that he actually said to her.
Yeah.
Also, some of that information is incorrect. Anyway, so she laughs. I don't feel I've dedicated it to him. It's italicized again, guys. With my ex, it was the first time I'd been with someone where I wasn't in control. Like, I wonder if he said to her, is it dedicated to your ex? And then he's taking Sean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I want to know if he actually said that name to her.
Yeah.
I don't feel I've dedicated it to him. With my ex, it was the first time I'd been with someone where I wasn't in control. I fell madly in love with him. He inserts, was he controlling her? She goes, let's just say it was nothing like how I had been treated before. I thought that's what I wanted. I wanted to be kept on my toes and have that chase and hand on my heart. I don't ever want that again. Ever is italicized. Going solo, she says, seems to suit her. Part of me feels I should be single forever because in relationships, you have to sacrifice so much. I like waking up and knowing this day is just for me and I don't need to worry about anyone but me. I'm really not looking for a relationship anymore. Perhaps the problem is that men just aren't that great. All right. Before she answers, I don't like that. I don't like what he just did. She's talking about how she's happy being single. And he goes, perhaps the problem, which there isn't one, she's not describing a problem, is that men just aren't that great. Why are we setting her up?
Yeah.
I have lots of issues with this. First of all, you're creating a narrative that's not there. She's talking about how she's enjoying being single. It's good for her. And she also just said all of her relationships treated her wonderfully except for one. That's also not a problem. The fact that she learned that she doesn't want what she thought she did want is not a problem. Like, you're literally manufacturing a problem in her love life. You've manufactured that the problem is that men just aren't that great. And then you've now set her up to answer a question of maybe she should date girls because like men just aren't that great. That's not how sexuality works.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with experimenting or being bisexual, but like no one just like why are we perpetuating the stereotype and setting her up to perpetuate it, which is what she's about to do? The stereotype that women are gay because men just aren't that great. Like they're gay because they had bad experiences with men. Bye bye, Mr. Interview Man.
Yeah.
I'm more upset about that than what happens next, but we'll continue.
Yeah.
Okay, so she goes, I wish I liked women. I really do. I said that to my sister the other day because she's gay. I said, Jade, I wish I loved women. And Jade was like, well, just try it. You never know. And I said, no, I love men too much. I just love the way men smell and I love muscles and women don't have that, do they? And then the interviewer actually inserts like he does and goes, some do, I say. And Jesy goes, haha, I'll never rule it out. I'll just say that. Yeah, so when I read this, I was like, ooh, not the best. What I saw being made of it on social media was an excuse to hate on her because some of the people who were complaining about what was in it was complaining about things that weren't the offensive part. And I was like, so do you just not know what's offensive about it, but you see people are upset, or you can sense that there's something wrong in it, but you don't actually know what it is, and so you picked what you thought it was? Yeah, not loving that part of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the problematic part of it is what I just said he did, that he set her up to continue, which is that, well, have you tried turning to women when men suck? She tells an anecdote of a conversation that she's had with her gay sister, and her gay sister's response is like, well, give it a try. There's a lot of aspects to this. First, I saw a lot of people going, she's homophobic. She's homophobic. She's not homophobic. There's nothing in this that's like, ew, gross women.
Yeah.
Or like, how dare you suggest that? That's wrong. She seems like she doesn't understand that someone could be bi, first of all.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like she thinks that if she likes guys, she can't like women. So, A, there's that. And B, like, it's just uneducated. Like, it just shows that she's not, like, she doesn't truly understand the discrimination that people face for not being straight, which she's not alone with. A lot of straight people don't understand that. It's very, very, very common. I've had family members say things like this. I've had friends say things like this around me. I've had to correct them. I've had to correct them multiple times. This is a very common thing that gets said. It's not homophobic. It's uneducated.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that you can't be upset about it if you're part of the LGBT community. That's not what I'm trying to say, but like it's not homophobic. So like you can be upset, but like be upset for the right reason, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like don't make up a reason. Like you can be upset about this. There's something to be upset about this if you want to, but like don't make up a false reason. The whole reason that this is included is weird for me. I don't know why this wouldn't have been taken out. Like who approved this on her team? This seems like a really unnecessary thing to put in the article because the next line is, for now, Jesy Nelson is going to focus on herself. So like that seems really weird to me that it was included. I don't really understand what the logic was on her team's side or even on his side.
It was like there was a word count and he needed to reach it.
Yeah, like I don't know. It was weird. Like it was just really weird. Second of all, like we need to not like jump on people because we actually know she has a history of kissing at least one other woman. If she is actually experimenting with her sexuality, you like need to be a little bit less quick to like crucify people for that.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you may or may not be experimenting. I'm like I take this outside of Jesy because I don't mean to be applying this about her. Take this outside of Jesy. You can be experimenting or thinking about experimenting or thinking about your sexuality and like trying to figure things out and be uneducated and have like misinformation and stereotypes and not understand things about it and still be questioning your sexuality. That happens. So like people when they're questioning can say dumb shit, whether they're trying to hide it, whether it's because they don't know better, whether it's because they don't really know what they're talking about. It doesn't mean that their questioning isn't genuine or valid. So I just think like sometimes we jump a little too hard at that stuff. It continues. For now, Jesy Nelson is going to focus on herself. I feel you only get one shot to make your impact as a solo artist, so I'm going all guns blazing. I don't want people to be, oh, that's nice, or I expected her to do that. I want people to be like, fuck my life, she's here. I mean, it's working so far.
It's working so
Well,
far.
wasn't that literally what we were saying last episode?
Yeah.
We were saying like, fuck me, I didn't see that coming. Like,
Oh my god.
we're like, shit, Republic, Nikki, like we didn't.
Yeah.
All right, and then he circles back to what Jade said about her being a broken doll, which is another. We'll go into this. Okay. I remind her what her bandmate Jade Thirlwell said about her becoming a broken doll. Did she recognize that? Yes, with an exclamation point. I don't know why, but like that makes me think like I imagine her like I literally imagine her like you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Okay. If she was a broken doll, then what is she now? I really hate that he attached this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know. We'll talk about it. Maybe it's just me. Okay. Now I'm a dolly that's been put back together again. I'm not gonna say I'm a new dolly. I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh my god, I'm not insecure anymore. I'm the most confident person ever because that would be bullshit. If he inserts, if she's going to stay healthy, she says it is vital that she's honest with herself and her fans. Okay, pause. Why isn't that a quote?
Honestly.
Like I don't care about your fucking dolly stupid shit. I want to know more about that line right there that you paraphrased.
Yeah.
I would like he annoys me. He paraphrases the best bits. um okay, she goes, I still have my insecurities and I probably always will, but it's learning how to deal with them and accepting them. I still have days when I get down, but I'm definitely not broken, that's for sure. Okay, he tried way too hard to be literary and I didn't appreciate it. Again, this is all just about like, oh, it's only valid if it's in the terms of how her bandmate put it. I just don't like that.
Yeah.
like, I just don't like that whole thing, so I'm not a fan of this. It also didn't get an interesting response from her because she's already answered similar questions before, except for the thing he paraphrased, which is if she's going to stay healthy, she says it is vital that she's honest with herself and her fans. I like this. I don't like that he paraphrased it. I want to know what the real quote was, but I like that because what that tells me is that she knows that like she can relapse.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that she's not fixed, and that this is going to take work, and that she has to be honest about that with herself, with, she says fans, but I assume she also means like family and stuff, you know, like friends. Like, I
Mhm.
like that. That tells me she's not going in with her eyes closed. I feel like it's different than what she said after Odd One Out.
It is. It definitely is.
Odd One Out was very much like, I'm better now. Sure, I still have insecurities, but I'm better now. This is like, I know that I have mental illnesses. I know they're not going anywhere. I know I have work to do. I like that. That makes
Yeah.
me feel better about this. That's my opinion on the end. What's your opinion?
I mean, it's pretty much the same. Like, I like how she's addressing it.
Mhm.
Because, like you said, in Odd One Out, after Odd One Out, I mean, she kind of acted like it was all fixed.
And I think, I mean, I don't know, but I got the impression that she did that because she wanted it to be fixed.
Yeah, if she believed it hard enough, it would be.
Yeah, you know, same thing she was talking about with her tattoo, the tiger tattoo, right?
You fake it till you make it.
And so I like that the answer now isn't, oh, I'm perfectly fine and healthy. It's like, I have to work at this and I know it. And
Yeah.
it starts with being honest. All right. So that was the Guardian interview. We really did a deep dive. I don't know how much of it you guys heard because, like I said, we did talk about it for a very long time. So who knows how much of it got cut out. But we did a very deep dive. And we went line by line. And I apologize for the fact that I can't read to save my life. All right, let us know what you guys think down below. Yeah, guys, just behave in the comment section, I guess. You guys are usually pretty good.
Behave.
I feel very condescending saying that, so I apologize. But like, I just, you know, I don't know. I worry. I saw how bad it was on social media. I worry about what this will actually uh on what the comment section could look like for this. I have some faith in you guys that it won't, because you guys are always so respectful for the most part and stuff. And usually it's like random people who just clicked on for the week who say things. Um, so I'm sure it'll be okay. But just a reminder to please be respectful of Jesy, us, the other people in the comment section. Your opinion is not fact, and everything is speculation. And the minute Jesy says something that discredits your speculation, you are wrong, and we are wrong. I think that is going to be it in that sense. Let us know down below if there's any other kind of Jesy stuff you want us to do in the future. Like if there are articles like this in the future or something that you want us to talk about, let us know. We likely will not continue to do every interview article she does. But if there are some that you think something like interesting happened in and you want us to talk about it, because I feel like there will probably be some more of those as everything rolls out,
Yeah.
then just let us know. We are definitely open to doing that stuff, and we'll see you guys next week.